Hi, friends. There's a moment that happens, usually sometime after dinner. The kitchen is technically closed, you've already eaten, your body doesn't actually need anything else. And still, you find yourself back in the kitchen, opening the pantry, standing there longer than you planned, looking for something specific, something sweet, something crunchy, something that takes the edge off the day. Not because you're hungry, but because you don't want to sit with how you feel right now. And it's quiet, it's not a binge, it's not chaos, it's just enough to take the edge off for a minute. And afterward, you don't feel better. You feel a little more disconnected and a little more frustrated. And you have that quiet thought, why do I keep ending up here? If you've been here, this episode is for you. Welcome back to Your Relationships Are Keeping You Fat, the podcast where we look at the patterns shaping your health, your habits, and how you experience your body. I'm your host, Darla, and today we're looking at a moment that seems small, but is probably happening more often than you realize. And before we get into it, if you've ever stood in your kitchen, not hungry, but still looking for something, go hit follow, because what we're building in this season is going to help you understand why that keeps happening and what actually changes it. And this is one of the moments where if you understand what's driving it, everything starts to make more sense, because this isn't random. This is something that your body has learned to repeat, and it tends to show up in very specific seasons of life. When you start dating someone new, your routine starts to look different. You're eating out more, you're spending more time together, and food becomes part of connection. And without really noticing it, your structure starts to loosen. Or when a husband comes home from deployment or long stretches away for work, everything starts to feel different. Schedules change, emotions are higher. There's a desire to reconnect, to enjoy, to celebrate. And food becomes a part of that experience. Or if you're a mom with young kids, you're in the kitchen all day, finishing bites off their plates, eating what's left so it doesn't go to waste, grabbing small things throughout the day. And by the end of the day, you've eaten more than you realize, because none of it actually felt like a real meal. And none of that is a discipline issue. It's exposure, it's environment, it's repetition. And it usually builds after a day where you have been on for everyone else. You haven't had a second to yourself. Your brain has been making decisions all day, but your body hasn't actually been taken care of. So when you finally sit down, your body starts to catch up to everything that you pushed through. And instead of processing it, you reach for something to soften it, because food is the fastest option. It's accessible, it's predictable, and in that moment, it works temporarily. And most of the time, it's not hunger. It's one of a few things: mental exhaustion, overstimulation, or a need for relief. This is relief eating. It's not hunger eating. And if you don't see that clearly, you'll keep trying to solve it with food. And when that keeps happening, that's where fat loss starts to feel harder, not because of one moment, but because of how often that moment repeats across the week. This isn't a lack of control. This is exactly how your body is designed to respond when it's overstimulated and under-supported. It's a response that your body has learned to rely on. And as you're listening to this, you might already be thinking of someone who says, I'm not even hungry, I just want something. Or someone who finds themselves back in the kitchen at night trying to figure out why it keeps happening. So if that person came to mind, send this to them, because sometimes hearing it explained this way is what finally makes it click. And if you're noticing that parts of this feel familiar for you too, this is where it becomes important to separate what you're feeling from what your body actually needs. Because what's happening in that moment isn't physical hunger. It doesn't sound like, I should probably eat something. It sounds like, I need something right now. I just want something sweet. I can't stop thinking about it. It shows up in your head, not your stomach. And it doesn't go away after a few bites because it was never about food. And there's a reason that it keeps happening. Because foods with sugar, artificial sweeteners, and highly processed snacks, they create a quick dopamine response. And that this feels better moment is your brain getting a reward signal. But over time, your brain adapts. So the same food doesn't feel as satisfying, which means you need more bites, more often, and more intensity to even get the same effect. But now it's not occasional, it's happening more frequently. And this is where it starts to affect fat loss directly because now you're eating in the moments that your body didn't actually need fuel. And those small repeated moments are what quietly keep your intake higher than you realize. So this is where that most women feel they're doing everything right, but nothing is changing. At the same time, those same foods affect your gut. They change the balance of bacteria, which can lead to bloating after meals, more sensitivity, inconsistent digestion. And when your gut is irritated, your body reacts faster and recovers slower. And your gut and brain are always communicating. So when your gut is off, your stress response becomes more active. Your body produces more cortisol, and cortisol does two important things here. It increases cravings for quick energy, and it makes your body more likely to hold on to stored fat. So now you're in a pattern where you're craving more, and your body is less likely to let go of stored body fat. And alcohol fits right into this. At the end of the day, it feels like an unwind. But it disrupts sleep, it affects blood sugar, and it can carry over into the next day, affecting how steady both your energy and decision making feel. So the next day, things can feel a little less clear and a little harder to navigate the same way that you normally would. And this is incredibly common, especially for women carrying a lot throughout the day. And the cycle continues. So, when you're standing in the pantry at night, this is a predictable response. It's a loop. Your brain is looking for relief, your gut is influencing how you feel, and your stress system is amplifying the signal, all leading you back to the same behavior. And it's not because you're doing something wrong, but because your body has learned this response. And the more often it happens, the harder it becomes to create steady fat loss. So instead of trying to override that in a moment or relying on more willpower to push through it, we start looking at what's shaping your decisions before you even get into that moment. Because if your environment stays the same, your behavior will keep following it. And this is where design comes in. Not more willpower, better design. Because willpower asks you to win in the moment, but design influences the moment before it happens. So this isn't about pushing more. It's about setting your life up so that your choices feel more supported. The highest level of discipline is when your life is structured in a way where your actions start to feel more natural. And that's what actually drives fat loss. Not perfect days, but repeatable patterns. Because when your environment is working with you, you're not negotiating with yourself all day. The decision has already been guided before you even have to think about it. And the fewer decisions that you have to win in the moment, the more predictable your behavior becomes over time. And this becomes even more important when your life seasons change because your environment isn't fixed. It changes with your season, your schedule, and your relationships. And when those things change, your behavior naturally follows. So instead of expecting yourself to do everything the same way, you start building a structure that fits the life you're actually living. Not by repeating the same routine, but by adjusting it based on what your life looks like right now. And this is where it becomes practical. And these are real life scenarios. I see this with my clients all the time, which is exactly why we need to talk about it here. Because this isn't happening in isolation, it's happening inside your real life, your relationships, your schedule, your day to day environment. If you're dating someone new, you're eating out more, your routine isn't as predictable. Meals are built around time together, not structure. And without realizing it, your day starts to revolve around that. So your approach becomes looking at menus ahead of time, choosing what feels supportive before you get there, and deciding how often you want to eat out during the week. Not restricting the experience, but staying aware inside it. If your partner comes home, everything starts to look different. The schedules change, the meals are shared again, and there's more connection, more time together. And in the middle of that, your usual rhythm gets replaced. So your approach becomes planning a few anchor meals during the week, keeping simple, supportive foods available, and deciding what your baseline looks like now. So you're not relying on the moment to figure it out every time. And if you're a mom, especially with younger kids, you're in the kitchen all day, finishing bites, eating off plates, grabbing things while standing. And by the end of the day, you don't actually know how much you've eaten because none of it felt like a real meal. So, your approach becomes having your own plated meals, deciding that I only eat when I sit down, and keeping a go to snack ready so you're not grabbing things all day. Because grazing isn't about hunger, it's about being around food constantly. And this is where it all connects because what you're around all day, you will eventually respond to. And this is where your environment starts to play an even bigger role because your environment is quietly shaping your choices, whether you're thinking about it or not. So let's make this real. What's at eye level in your fridge? Is it prepped protein, cut fruit, something ready when you're actually hungry? Or is it food that you tend to skip? While the easier options are what you reach for without thinking. What's sitting on your counters? Because what you see repeatedly, you are more likely to reach for, especially at the end of a long day. Even the layout of your space matters. You sit down on the couch, and within 10 minutes, you're back in the kitchen. And it's not because you made a decision to eat, but because it's right there. So, this isn't about having more control. It's about understanding what you're exposed to all day and how often you're interacting with it. Because most of the choices aren't happening consciously. When your environment is set up with intention, you don't have to fight temptation. You simply run into it less often. And when those moments come up, this is where most people feel stuck because it's not enough to remove the behavior. You have to change how you respond in that moment because the urge isn't random. It's your body trying to resolve something: a long day, mental fatigue, built up stress, a lack of nourishment earlier in the day. And if you don't address what's underneath it, you'll keep returning to the same response. When it's boredom, your body is looking for stimulation, not something to eat. That might mean a change of environment, movement, or even a break from what you've been focused on all day. When it's stress, your body is trying to settle, not through restriction, but through something that helps you feel more regulated. A few quiet minutes, stepping outside, taking a breath before reacting. Or when it's exhaustion, your body is asking for rest, not another decision to manage, not another rule to follow, but space to recover from the day that you've had. Because the goal isn't to make the urge disappear, it's to understand what it's asking for and respond in a way that actually supports you. And once you start seeing in this way, you're no longer stuck in one response. You have options. And that's where things begin to open up. So the next time that you find yourself in the kitchen, pause for just a second, not to stop yourself, but to check in. Start with, what am I feeling right now? Not what you should feel, but what's actually there. Tired, overwhelmed, restless, mentally drained. Then ask, what has my day looked like leading up to this? Have you been going nonstop, skipping meals, carrying stress all day without a break? And then, what would actually support me right now? Not what the plan says, not what you think you're supposed to do. What would actually help your body in this moment? And sometimes that might still be food, but now it's a choice, not just a reaction. You're not trying to be perfect here. You're learning how to respond with more awareness. And this is where self trust begins, not by stopping the behavior, but by understanding what's driving it. Because once you can see what's happening in that moment, you're no longer reacting on autopilot. And if you think about the version of you that you're becoming, this is one of the moments that she handles differently. You're choosing your response, and that's what starts to change things. Not one perfect decision, but how you respond in these small, repeated moments. Because those are the moments that quietly make fat loss harder or more consistent. So this week, just notice. Notice when you're physically hungry and when you're reaching for something to take the edge off your day. Notice what time it happens, what your day looked like leading up to it, and what you're hoping that food will change in that moment. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to stop it. Just start seeing it clearly. Your body isn't working against you. It's responding to how it's been supported or where it's been stretched too thin. And fat loss isn't decided by your best days. It's shaped in moments like these, when your energy is low, when your day has been full, when you're standing in the kitchen trying to take the edge off. Those moments aren't the problem. They're where your next decision begins. As you move through this week, notice those moments, not to fix them, just to understand what your body is asking for. Because the more clearly you see it, the easier it becomes to respond in a way that actually supports you. Stay connected to that, and we'll keep building from there. And I'll see you in the next episode.